But here's the challenge. Australia is producing more of its own doctors. In 2024 alone, over 4,000 Australian medical students graduated. That number is projected to rise by 15 to 20% by 2027. One of the most important and reliable and in-demand pathways for IMGs in Australia. With increasing numbers of doctors arriving from the UK and thousands new graduates coming out of Australian medical schools, many international doctors are now asking, what does future hold for them? For many of you, you're just beginning to consider Australia, but the reality is it takes about 12 to 24 months to gain traction, to clear exam, to prepare applications and secure a hospital job, your first job that is. I'll break down it into three main categories in terms of what the future holds for you. Junior doctors, general practice, and overseas specialists. Now let's dive into each of the groups and look at the facts and the trends and where we're heading. Let's begin with this very large cohort. According to APRA and AMC data, over 3,200 international medical graduates were granted registration in 2023 alone. Now, many enter through standard pathway or workplace-based assessment programs. So where are the opportunities? Hospital in regional Queensland, Western Australia, Northern Territory, and even in states like New South Wales, Dubbo, have remained open to hiring junior IMGs, especially where the workforce shortages still persist. But here's the challenge. Australia is producing more of its own doctors. In 2024 alone, over 4,000 Australian medical students graduated. That number is projected to rise by 15 to 20% by 2027. We also cannot ignore the impact of the UK. Post-Brexit, hundreds of UK-trained doctors, that is the junior doctors, GP and specialists, are entering into Australia annually. Increased competition for internship and RMO level roles, particularly in metropolitan areas, are because of the UK graduates. Additionally, the emergence of the nurse practitioner and telehealth roles, which was thought to really disrupt the market, has not really happened here in Australia. The nurse practitioner are still confined to their role, while the doctors pretty much do what the doctors need to do. I don't see any particular threat what happened in the UK in terms of nurse practitioners or physician assistant. That's something which is foreseeable in future here in Australia. Now, it's becoming clear, however, the competition is rising amongst doctors. As I often say that in a crowded race, it is every candidate for themselves. The better your skills, communication, and readiness, the better your chances of securing your first job. Now, let's talk about the AMC clinical exam. It's been a huge contention initially for its non-availability of dates, then the exam performance leading to a pass rate of sometimes less than 30%. Now, those who pass this crucial exam are prioritized for job offers. And unlike 5 years ago, now we have better preparation resources, coaching, and practice material. The current passing requirement of 9 out of 14 stations, I think I can expect an improvement in pass rate over the next 1 or 2 years. And plus, I think with increasing number of doctors taking it, the proportion of doctors passing this exam will be significantly higher. Bottom line, if you are thinking of moving to Australia as a junior doctor, plan for 12 to 24 months of preparation, exam, job seeking. Let's talk about GPs. One of the most important and reliable and in-demand pathways for IMGs in Australia. According to RACGP and Department of Health, more than 2,800 IMG GPs have been placed in rural and regional areas over the last 2 years. That is from 2023 all the way leading up to 2025. Many of them have even secured permanent residency. I was surprised when one of my, the GPs that we helped initially with the PEP pathway called me and said that, thank you, I have obtained permanent residency. That is less than 6 months of arrival here in Australia. Now, why is there a demand? Australian population is aging. Nearly 1 in 6 Australians is now over 65. A large cohort of locally trained GPs is reaching retirement age. Regional and outer metro communities continue to grow. Increasing demand for primary care and pathways like PEP, Specialist Stream, MD, RAP, and FSP are helping build better resources for their patient. Now, those who are coming in through MRC GP pathway or similar international qualification have had a very good run of integrating into Australian health system. If you're partially comparable, you still have to do a final exit fellowship exam. But as I said, the permanent residency has happened for many of these candidates even before the exam, which is a very good thing, especially for the IMGs who've pretty much relocated or migrated into new countries. So it's a very good thing. Now, looking ahead, Health Workforce Australia projects a strong GP shortfall, and they are predicting by 2035 there'll still be a requirement for GP. In excess to 3,500 GPs will be required by that year. Now let's talk about one of the more complex categories, overseas specialists. Over the last few years, we've seen mixed but generally positive trend of specialists in following fields: emergency medicine, general medicine, psychiatry, obs and gynae, and radiology. The specialist pathway through colleges like Australian College of Emergency Medicine, Royal Australian College of Physicians, Royal Australian New Zealand College of Obstetrician and Gynecologists, and Royal Australian New Zealand College of Psychiatrists has been viable for IMGs with substantial overseas training. And despite their very confusing criteria, we have been able to navigate to successful outcome with good success rate. It has been the job which has been the issue, but now slowly and gradually we're beginning to learn about the jobs, and people have been able to obtain jobs. Especially emergency medicine is no-brainer. People who have got substantial comparability or even partial comparability are able to get a job pretty much straight away as a registrar, and then built up on their further requirements as mandated by the college. Radiologists have been able to obtain a job. Gynecologists are also getting jobs. It does take time, and so does general medicine. It does take time. Now, the turning point came recently in terms of college application when Royal Australian College of Surgeons, RACS, which is one of the most difficult colleges to deal with, issued an apology, or an explanation rather, to international surgeons. They acknowledged that errors in prior assessment were IMGs held to the same standard as a fully qualified or trained Australian surgeons with 5 years plus experience. However, as per the APRA or AMC requirement, this should have been at the level of freshly passing out surgeons from the training program. This signals a more equitable assessment process, especially for IMGs from the subcontinents, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, some even from the UK, who are coming freshly graduating from their training programs. Specialties like orthopedics, neurosurgery, cardiothoracic surgery are no-go. They remain extremely competitive, and they're still more favored to those who are trained perhaps in the UK, working in a very senior consultant role. But I think IMGs from Southeast Asia who are partially comparable in these categories, there's not many job opportunities. That's the fact. And often requiring that 12 to 24 month of supervised practice before the full fellowship is the real bottleneck here. What does it look like for the doctors over the next 1 to 5 years who are thinking of coming to Australia? GP will remain high in demand, especially in rural and outer metro areas. Specialists in emergency, psychiatry, radiology, general medicine will continue to have favorable outcomes, and perhaps will continue to get jobs with a little bit of waiting times. That's what's happening right now. But I think as the things get heated up over the next couple of years, the waiting times will prolong, but I think these services will still need doctors. Junior doctors, I think that's where they will face increased competition, especially in the cities. But regional placements where, historically none of the Australian doctors want to go will continue to be accessible, an opportunity to be had. However, very important, this opportunity is only for those who are organized. They've set themselves up with right credentials to land into these jobs. Now, what about the broader economic conditions? Will it influence the migration? Australia is currently going through a housing crisis, rising cost of living. Personally, I don't think it will impact very skilled migration workforce like doctors or nurses or engineers, but I think it will overall reduce the quota. Now, these factors could impact the visa processing, and the job availability may come with a clear distinction that if you're on shore, you will be given preference. If you're already a permanent resident, you will be given preference. But if you're from overseas, then obviously it will create hurdles unless and until there has been no uptake of that job. Final advice is start planning early, prepare well, and be realistic about the timelines. From the day you decide to pursue your career here in Australia to landing your first job, it is at least 12 to 24 months hard work. So please pay attention to your CVs, to your credentials, to everything which makes your CV solid, because you're competing pretty much amongst yourself. As an IMG, it's every IMG against every IMG. You're not competing with Australian or UK graduates. You're competing amongst yourself. Australia still need good doctors, especially those who are well prepared, ethical, and have good communication skills and committed to the patients. I would say that opportunities do exist even with the rising competition. I think the opportunities will exist. They may get pushed out to the regional and rural Australia. However, there will still be jobs. Look after yourself and each other, and I'll catch you up in the next video. Bye.